going to teach everybody how to
In
go
case
live.
anyone is here waiting, I know we have our friends at Pine Ridge, 9 at the moment. They're expecting a few more. Just thought I'd say hello and allow you to see the goofiness that sometimes happens as we bring these programs up. And we're welcoming in nature in many different places.
Yeah. And
Got everything here from New Zealand to the inside of a van, to Costa Rica, and all these other places.
and nature can be chaos and nature can be unpredictable, and so can
Correct.
life. So
Well, and we just lost the inside of the van again, but she'll probably be back.
Is that Shawnee? Shawnee in the van?
I'm gonna open differently tonight, and I'm gonna break some rules because this is a prayer that's supposed to be done in the morning. So if we wake up tomorrow and the wolf and the lamb are lying down together, and the lion and the ox, you know why. Blame me. So one of the things here, and I thought this was appropriate since we're talking Costa Rica a little bit tonight, is I got introduced to a new faith when I was down here. It's a new old faith, and it's the newest scene movement.
Do you have your speaker all the way up, Robert?
I do, and perhaps it is
Something was just better when you leaned in.
okay. I'm going to take this hard case off of my computer to
Okay.
see if maybe blocking the microphone. Not in my usual environment. Is that any better?
No,
Just
good
talk
enough.
really loud.
it's good enough.
Okay. You know, I'm not soft spoken. I scream talk, so anyways, there's the scenes, and if you comes from a Jewish background. If you've there's the 4 philosophies of Judaism, the Sadducees, which are no longer around. They only believed in the books of Moses, and they didn't believe in the resurrection, and that's why they were sad, you see. Okay. There was the yeah.
That was good.
Got it. And there's the Pharisees. That's how I kept the two separated in my head. And it was the Pharisees, which is the modern Judaic movement. There's the third philosophy, which is the Essenes. They were the ones that hid out in the desert, and John the Baptist was an Essene. And there was the fourth philosophy, which was the Zealots, the militant group. So this would be a more modern. This is the Essenes after Jesus. So, but something they do, and I try to present when I'm on here different ways of communing with the Earth Mother and connecting with it. So I try to bring in something from a different faith. And so they have a habit every day. In the morning, they commune with an angel, except the Sabbath, they commune with the Earth Mother. In the evening, they commune with an angel, except on the Sabbath with the Heavenly Father. In the morning is the angels of the Earth Mother. In the evening, the angels of the Father. So each day is a different one. Today happens to be with the sun. So that is how we're going to open. There's a prologue that goes with all of these, and then the prayer itself. So, and if you don't like the word angel, change it. I'm okay with it. They're okay with it. Go with it. Let's start this. Let us enter the eternal and infinite garden of mystery, our spirits in oneness with the Heavenly Father, our bodies in oneness with the earthly mother, and our hearts and minds in oneness with each other and with all of creation. Sounds a little bit like Sodom. Angel of sun, there is no warmth without thee, no fire without thee, no life without thee. The green leaves of the trees do worship thee, and through thee is the tiny wheat kernel, become a river of golden grass, moving with the wind. Through thee is opened the flower in the center of my body. Therefore, while I never hide myself from thee, angel of sun, holy messenger of the earth mother, enter the holy temple within me and give me the fire of life.
Wow, I like that.
Mike's on.
Okay.
So they have particular days, and the only one that's probably as important is the Sabbath. when you go to the divine directly there. But Sunday mornings is the angel of earth. Monday's the angel of life. Tuesday's the angel of joy. Wednesday's the angel of sun. Thursday, the angel of water. And Friday, the angel of air. And so you say that, and then you spend some time reflecting and connecting with those energies. So it's a nice cycle if you do it every day, just another way to connect with the Earth Mother. And again, just for completeness, the ones in the evening, which is the spiritual side, right? We have the physical and the spiritual, right? They have to be together, in the masculine and the feminine. Saturdays is the angel of eternal life. Sundays, the angel of creative work. Monday, the angel of peace. Tuesday, angel of power. Wednesday, which is tonight, we should have been doing the angel of love. Thursday, the angel of wisdom. And then Friday evening, because that's when the Sabbath starts, is communing with Heavenly Father. So just something different way. And down the street from me here, like this Jewish Christian tradition here, there's an ashram right down the street from me, about 15 minutes from the house here, and a seen ashram. So, and my neighbor over here as well. So just thought that was appropriate to start that here, since that was my first exposure other than Catholicism in Costa Rica. Wasn't really sure where to start with lessons here, what it's funny is my lessons that it was coming
Hey, Robert,
to.
can I chime in?
Yeah, chime in. Oh, I'm sorry.
My mic is kind of weird, so my apologies. We're driving across borders, so hopefully you can hear me okay.
You're good.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I love that you shared that, because it is a beautiful, just like daily practice to connect with the elements. I see that, and it's so appropriate because today being the sun, right as we were leaving Sedona, we stopped to get spring water from the mountain, and we took the dogs down to the river there, or the little creek and just soaked in the sunshine and the water for a bit, and it was very connecting. Felt a lot of the water flowing things off of me, energy that wasn't needed. It was beautiful. So thank you for sharing that.
You're beautiful, Robert.
Beautiful. Thank you. I just wanted to hear you say that. So if you can see my complexion today, that's just usually pasty white. I was communing with the sun today. If only I had a loving partner that advised me to wear sunscreen today, it wouldn't have happened. But I went up to volcano here, which is a volcano out my window. There's two of them here, Turrialba, and to the left you can kind of see the radio tower on top of the volcano, or near the volcano is Erazu. And it's over 11,000 feet. Apparently the sun is a little stronger up there, so I wore a hat, but it wasn't enough.
Who would have thought?
If only you would have advised me to wear sunscreen at 6 o'clock this morning when we spoke. And the thing is, as I was thinking about this week and what to talk about, I thought it was going to come from here. I'm like, oh, I can't tell you what I'm going to talk about. It's going to be Costa Rica, but I'm going to find it out up here, but I didn't. It wasn't it. What I felt was a very inactive volcano. I don't think it's going to move for quite a while. Yeah, you got to be careful what you say. And I'm going to digress. My ADD is kicking in tonight. So I'm going to share a story from last time I was here. And Rebecca always says words have power, and a lot of people say words have power. And that's almost a little more new agey, right? But if you're in the valley of Orosi here, everybody knows that. Everybody, no matter what their background is, whether they're spiritual or not. And I was slapped in the face kind of virtually for something I said, because I laying in bed going to sleep when I sent Rebecca a song about, before I go, and I jokingly told her, who knows, there could be an earthquake tonight and I could slide down the side of this mountain because I'm on the side of a mountain, another 1,000 feet above the valley or more over here. And I'm awoken. I wake up at about 4:12 in the morning to reach for my glass of water, and I'm taking a drink, and we got hit by almost a 5.0 earthquake. Almost in the middle of Orosi, and they don't have earthquakes in Orosi. They're usually in Cartago or further out, closer to those volcanoes. So it was an unusual occurrence to have one just a couple kilometers outside of town here. So if you come to Costa Rica, be careful what you say. Manifestation here is a little bit amplified. So if you do say it, what did you over the weekend, Rebecca? Can you say something?
Oh, yes. Yeah. If you say something that you catch yourself, first of all, we shouldn't say it for somebody else. Like if Robert says something, I shouldn't say this. But if I say something that I feel, oh, that's really not in resonance with what I truly believe. For example, somebody was saying, I'm so bad at technology. You say, cancel clear. Technology is my friend. So you say cancel and then clear, and then that just kind of verbally smudges us of the energy that we just put into, if I were to die tonight, here's this love song, and then the earthquake happens. Like, no, we cancel clear, and then you say something that's affirmative and really resonant with what you deeply believe, what you truly believe, or what you aspire to believe if you're working on healing something that you don't yet believe.
This is building up to my theme for today.
Okay.
Jim, what do you have?
Yeah, no, same general theme. At a little event today, a little program. I heard the word should 4 times. And so I said, okay, wait a minute. I have to stop this for a moment. And there's no should. Should's one of the worst words in the human vocabulary. Should implies you need to do something because someone else tells you do. So I said, let's use could or may or whatever. And anyway, we started working through the words, and it was changing the energy of the whole little gathering, which was nice. And then we started talking about nature, and we do this outside. It was just a small group today. I think there was only 6 of us. But it was really interesting because the woman who leads it she's got really nice energy. She's got four young children, nicest children in the world. And she and her husband have this land where we're doing some various ceremonies and things now. And so she told me that she and her husband keep having dreams of me. And I'm going, I apologize for the nightmares. And I said, I hope that doesn't mean I'm leaving soon, but we're all laughing. And then someone else said, oh yeah, so did we. Well, it's really weird. So there's a lot of strange energy right now. And I'm not surprised if I hear a volcano going off where it usually doesn't go, or the ground opening up where it usually doesn't do that. There was 2 earthquakes in Japan the other day in an area of Japan where they don't get earthquakes. One and then one 12 hours later. And they were all, one was around a 6 and one around a 5. So, we just have to hold on. We see what's happening. It's going to continue to happen. We're not doing, as a species, we're not doing a damn thing about it. Those of us who are aware of it aren't really sure what to do. And those who don't care are just moving ahead. So the more we can connect our lands up, I think, the more critical it becomes. I was talking to Robert just before the program, a friend who leads retreats down in Peru to Machu Picchu and other areas. He and I connected. We hadn't connected for a couple of years, and we're like, okay, we have to combine energies. And then Robert and Becky, of course, have the place in Costa Rica, which is another PowerPoint. And then there's something else going on here in Crestone in August that everyone's being tied into. So I think the best thing we can do right now is, and I'm glad you opened with prayer and something that was totally new to me. I'm not even sure what half of it was, and that's fine. You know, it's how we learned. But yeah, connecting up the PowerPoints. And it's amazing how many of us are near those or live near those as this is beginning. That's all. I'm just rambling. It's just these things were coming all day today, and then Becky went and triggered it on me.
You gotta nail the card. You're allowed to ramble. Yeah, and you're in one of those places like here again, Costa Rica is a very special place. Orosi Valley is an extra special place. You're in Sedona, an extra special place. There's those places where you have to be a little more cautious, a little more mindful and intentional in your words. And I usually say, no, intention has power, not words. And there's intention behind words, but I think sometimes I'm wrong. And sometimes I think it's just a lesson when I came here. Pay attention, be intentional. So one of the first lessons I have learned down here. You know, and I sat here and I filled up this thing today with notes on Costa Rica. And then I'm sitting here on the couch and I lost my pen. And I didn't move off the couch and I couldn't find my pen. And it was in the cushions. And I think Spirit was saying, you have enough notes, stop writing. And then later I found my pen, but I'd already agreed to stop writing. So I got my pen back. But Costa Rica,
Robert,
it is
I'm curious.
Yeah.
Oh.
Go ahead. Yes.
Yeah,
No,
I'm
go
just
ahead.
curious. Yeah,
Hey.
I'm just.
Talking stick.
Hey. May I have the talking stick? It's
And then you
hard for
gotta
me to-
wait, and then you gotta wait for it.
Okay.
Tommy's a
Hand
big
up.
talk.
Oh, these youngins.
I know, it's just I have to do so much to raise my hand on my phone that I just.
Yeah, you're driving. We'll give you
But I'll
more.
drive.
Go ahead.
I'm curious about your hike this morning. Like, what was the atmosphere like, or would you be interested in describing that a little bit? Because I've been very excited to hear about that all day too. It's just, they were hiking up to the volcano around backside your house.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm curious as to the senses that you felt or the atmosphere and what that's like.
Yeah, I'll talk to that a little bit. Yeah. But I'm gonna let Chris speak, and I'm gonna come back to that because I was gonna do that actually here in a moment. So go ahead, Chris. And you would like to turn your voice on?
That helps. I was going to say, do you want to do that bit first while? Okay. A lot of what I've noticed is we see the results of things. The importance of us finding our connection with Mother Earth and her energies as she guides us where to be and what to do before the events happen. And to me, it's learning to listen to that guidance we receive before we have to listen through a physical impact. If we learn to listen to the energetic consciousness or presence of the mother, I find she guides us, she directs us. I know to turn left, I know to turn right. I don't know why, but I know that's where to go. And it's learning to listen to this inner guidance that we all have. So we're in the right place, the right time, the right presence. And it's a union, like, you know, it's takes us beyond the thinking brain into that other awareness, which has a presence in our life and a vitality with it that we don't find outside the moment. We don't find it in thoughts because they're outside the moment. That was a bit of a ramble, but yeah. Talking stick in the middle.
I was thinking as you were talking too. I mean, there's the volcano, and I think I've got a few pictures I may have uploaded here, and I don't know if what I felt was important. You know, there's looking in, the volcano is just to the right and looking out over the mountains.
Can you
there.
spotlight it, Robert, please?
I could
Then we could see it better. It's so beautiful.
make somebody a co-host. Spotlight for everyone. There we go. Now you're looking at me. I'm just gonna do do this. I'm not screen sharing because I just uploaded these as backgrounds. But you can see I'm above the primary cloud level there. Like I said, 11,300 feet, I think it was. And then there's the volcano from one angle. I should have uploaded a lot more, I guess. And here's a neat little tree, very green, around this volcano. Then you have all of this volcanic sand and stuff all around it, and it looks kind of barren. And I scraped the ground with my foot, and it was like super wet underneath. That's why you have so much greenery around it. And again, there's the volcano. I have one. There used to be a lake inside, and it recently went away. I don't know what that means, but so my question is, because you're all spiritual people, and you look at these very limited pictures I'm providing for you, what do you feel when you see those? You can connect to a picture, right, Chris? I'm going to let you speak, but it was actually more peaceful than I expected. Like you think volcano and you think violent energy, and I think earthquakes, and it wasn't what I felt. And I was with others, so I was kind of moving along, and probably a good thing because I would have just sat for an hour in the sun, and I would probably be over at Dr. Moore's right now getting some sort of special burn cream for second-degree burns. But it wasn't. I remember I was walking along that back ridge where that, a little ways from the volcano there, where that tree was at. And I reached out because I really wanted to talk. And I touched a bush and I said, will you connect me? And I had this instant connection into the spirit in that area. I touched some leaves on a bush because I was moving along and I wasn't sitting like I want to get into that space. And I'm taking pictures and I got the big camera out and I'm distracted by it. And okay, but I just reached out and I touched the green leaves on that bush. I said, will you connect me? And I went right inside that bush and down into the ground and connected. And there was life, not destruction. Chris. We cannot hear you, and we would love to, if you would allow.
Yeah, I'm going to change what I was going to say now with what you're sharing. As you touched that bush and feel you were taken right down into her, does it stop there, or do you get that sense that it spreads out from the bush, from its microbiome, from its roots into the soil, and from there to the other bushes, into the air? What's that?
Oh, I'm sorry, I was answering your question because the wonderful thing is because I've spent some time with you, I just
Yeah.
reached out now and I touched the bush again.
Yeah, this
And
is
I
the
took it
thing.
further.
Yeah. And how does it feel as you do that? Do you feel the breath of it expanding, becoming more inclusive?
Yeah, I think it'll go as far as you'll let it take you.
Yes. So as we breathe this, what do you and I become in this moment? Because we're included in this moment. How does that feel? I feel your heart. So as you spread it to the others in the room here, in whatever way we feel it, to the air between us, to the water we all drink, and to the earth we walk on as she talks to us, guides us. How does it feel? Can we feel her and all her children that she perceives on her surface, in her being, wherever we are? She feels us. Talking stick in the middle.
And I'm being reminded why the leader of the meeting does not tech the meeting. It was eternally spotlit. But it is, and I think about what Chris said there, and what Chris, well, he's taught me this a few times, but I would reflect on sitting next to Shami's campfire in Sedona and connecting with that tree. And I've yet to gain that connection again to that level. But you can connect through a picture. You can connect through a story. And once you've actually stepped foot on a place, you can reconnect anytime you want. And that's not something I knew, one, until I've spent some time with Chris. And really, I experienced it when I came here. And I've talked about this before, when I went to Guayabo, and I was upset because I didn't have enough time. We had very little alone time, and we had a group exercise, and we got on the bus and we left. I realized every time I talk about Guayabo, and now anytime I talk about Irazu and the volcano and the leaves that I touched, I reconnect. And I can reconnect to Guayabo anytime I'm going to go there again. I may even make it there on this trip. But once you're there, once you know the flame is fire, the meal is already cooked. There's some Buddhism in there. Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, I'm just noticing as we're talking here, I can feel such a connection with what you're talking about. It's like I can feel your feet on the ground, and then every so often it goes blank. And I'm presuming that was when you were taking a photo and got distracted. But in between, I feel such a sense of connection that you had. It's such a pleasure to hear this and be a part of your journey. So thank you for sharing. Talking stick in the middle. I'll just finish off. Your words and your story are helping connect.
Jim. Talking stick.
Yeah, I'm wondering, since we're talking about power places as well, you're down in the rainforest, which is a critical area and a highly threatened area. What are you hearing from the rainforest?
You know, I'm going to back that up just a little bit. Some of these notes may actually come in handy because deforestation in Costa Rica after World War II was huge. Something like 80% of the forests were wiped out in a period of several decades. But the people here, I think, have always been connected to the land. Sometimes I think there was some ignorance that happened for a few decades there. Let's give you a little background. One of the few blue zones in the world, I think there's like 5 or 6 of them, I can't remember how many they are, is in Costa Rica on the peninsula to the west of me. And the average life expectancy here where I'm at is around 78. Over on the peninsula, it's 85. And then with a lot of, what do they call them, centurions or something like that live over 100, right? That's what makes a blue zone. So it's special there. And a person living over there said that they don't try to remove all the nature to make room for themselves so they can exist. They just kind of exist within nature. And this was a foreigner that moved here that told me that. They have no military here. They have a little bit of a border guard and some anti-terror, some special units. They actually have a special forces. It's huge. It has 70 people in it, and it works for the intelligence agency. That's their special forces, 70 people. They shifted all of that in 1948 into culture and education and economy. Now, then they made a mistake and they started making room and they started deforesting. But then things started to shift in the 90s, and that was when it gotten bad. And if you look at deforestation now, it was about 50,000 hectares. A hectare is about 2.5 acres of land was being destroyed every year here, forested area. Then something new started to come up in the world, and it was called PES, Payments for Environmental Services. Here it'd be PSA if you say it in Spanish, but in 1996, they passed some laws, the Forestry Law 7575, and they were the first country to implement this on a national scale. Basically, they paid people with land to protect it. You have this many hectares and we're gonna give this much money, preserve it, take care of it. There's a few other places. There's like 2 places in the United States that do it, and I'm forgetting where it is. Just two little spots. I think one of them was in Massachusetts, and I can't remember where the other one is. So it's not something they've embraced in the United States. But since then, what is it? It shifted the priority. It stated the priority is environmental services over anything else, including forestry, logging. There's very little logging here. They've shifted away from logging. They shifted to bamboo because bamboo is native to here, very large bamboo. They started building homes out of bamboo instead, which is very renewable if you've ever tried to keep bamboo under control. And now a lot of metal now too. But so 1986, it was 2.1 million hectares of forest here. By 2005, with these changes that were made, there was 2.5 million. And the last number I could come up with was in 2020, 2.6 million. So now 51% of the landmass in Costa Rica is forest. And you will read there is still deforestation here, about 5,000 hectares a year, but the renewal is keeping up faster than the deforestation. So yes, they do cut some down for various reasons, but they're reforesting at the same time, and it's a net positive. So that was just some background on where they've been. And so go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, no, that's really, and other countries down there, like Belize that I know well, almost 3/4 of Belize is preserved land. And they do similar models, not quite as effectively as Costa Rica. But it's actually where the model for land trust in the United States came from, which is a good way to preserve land, and people were given money to preserve their land and not build on it. But they didn't take the next step, and that's the one you're talking about, of reforesting that land or whatever. We're starting to see a little bit now as we see the salmon being released back into the rivers by the tribes. That, although not trees, that's bringing back a critical natural resource. Stick in the middle, sorry.
Yeah, and to answer your original question was, I really need to get into the rainforest more, and I'm going to head that way this weekend. Looking at another piece of property that borders some rainforest. It's not time yet for that property, but I'm going to go touch it. I'm going to connect with it. And when it's ready, we'll manifest it. So Rebecca's shaking her head. Chris.
I'd like to hear what you find when you do that journey, if you were open to sharing afterwards.
Yeah, and I mean, and I have been in some rainforest, but I haven't sat down and differentiated between the two. And about of that land I mentioned, the 51%, about 25% of that is rainforest. And reforesting is a lot easier than rainforesting. It's a little bit different. I mean, it's the most biodiverse type of land in the world, I think. And you don't just reforest rainforest. And that's where when rainforests get down, it's more of a serious problem than replanting some sequoias, which I mean was a travesty, but you've been there too. I think, sorry, Chris, you were done?
Yes, talking stick in the middle. I'll take my hand down. Sorry.
Yeah, I've been trying to lower him, but I missed yours. Go ahead, Jim.
I just wanted to do first, because I forget, most of the people listening to this listen to the recording. So I've been jotting notes from Pine Ridge on the side, but I thought this one was really nice as you were talking about the long life. Robert, their thing is living in balance with nature in a healthy way means long life also. And that's popped up on the reses for a long time. Not always, because there's so many other variables, but that's definitely one of them that does help. There's something else, but I lost the thread. Oh yeah, when you get out there, Robert, some videos in rainforests would be a really good thing. And oh, okay, the biodiversity of rainforests and replacing it. Yes, that's a really good, excellent point, actually. Rainforests exist on actually at 3 levels. So in a viable rainforest, you have 3 levels of existence in the trees. You got down near the soil, you've got partway up the trees, and in the real high trees, you have what's going on top. And it's almost like three Earths. They're very different. They're very diverse. If you go up, way up on top, it's like another whole Earth up there. Different birds, different plants, things grow as if there were soil. It's not. They're growing, you know, by taking things out of the air, like the redwoods do. But that's a big part of the reason they're trying to replace rainforest is really, really difficult. Because I mean, that takes, I can't remember how many generations it takes for that to even begin to develop. So that was a good point.
Yeah, I mean, rainforests are unique, just not biodiversity, but what they do and why they're called a rainforest. I mean, the fact they create their own environment. They create rain. That's why they're called a rainforest. They have their
Yep.
own environment. They pull water from the ground. It comes out in the leaves and things, and it comes right back down. It is its own closed system. It's a closed system. A lot of water goes in the air and it floats around. It comes up here and it drops there, and rainforests are a closed system. Do you know of a lot of rainforests in the States? Because most people in this call are in the States, but the whole rainforest in Washington is the
Yeah.
only one I know of because I've been there.
Oh,
And if you don't, it's okay. I'm just curious if there's more.
you know, there are others, but I don't remember that part of my. I mean, I was natural resources in my college stuff, but nope, I can't remember that. There are others.
It was 3 or 4 years ago, right?
That was, let me tell you, Sonny. Oh, my second time back. No, my second time back, I was in my 40s. That's still a couple of years ago. Damn. Okay, that's it. Stick in the middle.
Chris.
Yeah, I was going to say, you're describing that perfect circle of life, the wheel of life. And it's interesting because when you go into the rainforest and see these things, it's a natural, how would I call it, demonstration of abundance in action. How something works within its own life cycle, its own environment for the benefit of all within the environment. I can't think of a better example of it where it shows the abundance of life working with life. Talking stick in the middle.
Yeah, there was something you said there that triggered some thoughts. Abundance and I mean, I think about why do we tear these things down? One, it could be greed because we don't think we ever have enough, right? And two, it could be because we truly, let's say these people that own the land in Costa Rica, and it's a lot of farmers here. And the good thing about coffee is you plant it under trees because it likes a little bit of shade. But we come to an area like, well, no, I don't want to tear the forest down, but I have a family to feed. So I got to tear this forest down so I can plant some crops that I can sell because I can't sell pine needles, right? Or whatever the leaves are, right? Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, so why do we tear it down? And what it brings up for me is how often I see the people that want to remove nature, because we have a lot of it around here and we have a lot of people standing up for invasions of projects into nature. And the people that are trying to do things are focused on the thing, not the nature. They invalidate the nature over and above the thing. The nature to them is just in the way of their thing. Whereas we see their thing as asking to destroy the nature, which makes this place what it is. So it's understanding the thing comes and goes, but the nature breathes, it lives, it's here. And that life and vitality that we've been talking about, which brings health and healing, which has been a huge part of my healing journey, it's been vital to have that life cycle, that nature, that energy. It literally has healed me in so many ways and continues to do so. I feel it every day. And for some reason, I get distracted. I feel disconnected. It's like somebody's pulled my plug out of the socket. And my energy just drops down until I find that connection again. And it's not the connection's gone. It's just I stepped out of it because I got caught up in a thing. Whether it's a thought, an action, a belief, doesn't matter. It was a distraction from the life and vitality that I naturally am. Talking stick in the middle.
Oh, it's as my next word's going to say, and as I invite Jim to speak, I with intention invite more feminine energy into this room. And
What
as
you
I go to
mean?
say that,
Oh.
Shami's hand comes up, but there's other feminine energy in this room too that maybe we should hear from. Go ahead,
Okay.
Jim.
Yeah. So why do we do that? Well, as human beings, some of us have learned, especially indigenous populations, how to live in harmony with the earth and how not to overuse it. The rest of us have not. So that tearing down the rainforest so they can plant crops. When I worked on that in Central America, the part of the way to get that shifted was to let people understand you've got something much better than planting crops to support your family or killing all the animals, which was the other problem. And that's ecotourism. And so getting that shift to ecotourism was really great for a while. Sadly, too many people started coming in for ecotourism to many countries. Because we have too many people on the planet, these things then start to get overwhelmed as well. So it's finding a way to really come in balance. It's what in sanctuaries we talk about is weaving a new way of living, which is what I think we really need to do. We can't go back. Even now, we look at what's happening. Robert, you were bringing up some of the weather things that are going on. And what do we see if we look into the news? What are people worried about? Their jobs, their money, where their kids are going to go to school, who's doing this or that. You got to go to the end of the fourth page, I think, to find something about the environment. And yet that's what's supporting us all, and that's what can dump us all off. So it's really totally resetting priorities. And we're starting to see some of that. I think we really are. We just need a lot more, and we need it quickly. Talking stick in the middle, I yield to the feminine energy.
Shami, bring it.
All hail the divine union. Yeah, so what Christopher was saying was resonating a lot, and it was that distraction for the thing. And that's like that veil of materialism that capitalism has really vortexed. And it's all of these distractions that are taking us, separating us from Mother Nature, when we are nature. So cutting down the tree, cutting down whatever, it affects us. And it's a matter of how we utilize those resources when we do take down and clear land. And, that person who clears land and uses that to build their home, that's one thing. And then when it's done in excess, then that creates that imbalance and that disharmony that Jim's speaking to. And it really, when you were showing, before I got disconnected earlier, Robert, you were showing the pictures of the volcano and that trail and the dry lake bed. He said, there used to be water there, but it's gone now. And it's dried up because of that overuse, because of these shifts that we're having. And the climate, because of that accessibility, that excess and over-sourcing, over-resourcing, over-consumption, it shifted things where that bed is now dry. There's no lake there. There's no habitation there. It's shifted the ecosystem. So we are weaving this new web of way of living in harmony, and we're going to be creating, new ecosystems are creating, and we're going to have to adapt to that. And hopefully, and Jim is right. Like, it has to happen faster. So too fast to send nuclear weapons over, invest in nuclear weapons, but not too fast to shift global change. It's pretty wild. talking stick in the middle.
Chris?
Yeah, and just as you're talking, Shami, I got up and was walking around, and the earth, yeah, for those who don't know me, you'll get used to this. The earth spoke to me and she says, I will show you where to live and how to be in that environment that she guides us to. And what she showed me isn't geometric shaped towns that are square or round. They're almost like a town meandering like a stream going somewhere. And that spreads us throughout the environment, not just invading one space and overtaking it so the earth energy can't be there. It's this meandering thing that maintains the earth energy around it so it can come into the town, into our homes and into our lives. Talking, yeah, that was the other thing. I find the more people become focused on the things, the more fearful they become, because they become more distance from that connection that we feel when we're up. Yeah, perfect, Shami. Thank you. Talking stick in the middle.
Yeah, and it's needs over wants, which we've talked about before. You know, and I was thinking about this earlier, and you know, we need natural resources to build homes. There's not enough caves for us to live in anymore, right? So we build them, but what do we build? I'm recalling when I was in Washington and I had a manager up there and he was looking for a home and he was frustrated. And again, it's just him and his wife, if I remember right? He's looking at homes. It's like he was frustrated because he couldn't find a decent home. He's like, there's nothing here hardly over 2,000 square feet, you know, and he's looking for a 3,000 square foot home for him and his wife. You know, and then we tear down trees because we want nice, pretty green, well manicured lawn. What does lawn do to stop erosion? What does lawn do to really pull moisture from deep underground and bring it back up to keep the cycle going? You know, we cut down trees for everything else, for decks and for sheds because we buy too many things, and we do all these things because we have so many things, and we want things our way. We want lawn. We don't want trees. You know, the house I'm in up in North Carolina just had to replace a hot water heater a few days ago. I've got 3 hot water heaters in the house and another one in the garage. Here in Costa Rica, I don't have a hot water heater. I have a little heated shower head. That's it. I don't have AC. I don't have a ceiling over my head because I chose not to. I wanted it to be vaulted. It was raining earlier and I was afraid you wouldn't hear me because right above me is just the metal roof. And I would trade this home for that one any day. You know, this one's about 700 square feet and it might be a little big, but I gotta have room for guests. So, I think Shami had her hand up first. Go ahead, Shami.
That living simply. Every time I'm in another country like that, like I was in Costa Rica and then in Dominican Republic, even in other places, you get reminded of the simplicity of what we really need, what our needs are. And when we think about our energy centers, when Christopher was talking into that, the materialism and overconsumption leading to more fear in one's life, and being connected proliferates more love, more deep understanding, more compassion, empathy. And it made me think about the energy centers and how the root chakra represents your stability, your root, your foundation. Thinking also into the roots of the tree, that foundation of that strong, large, tall trunk that feeds and nourishes up to the leaves, to the sun. And it just makes me reflect on how if those basic needs aren't met in that root chakra, in that like the basic level of the pyramid of Maslow, the food, And once you start working towards that self, like letting go of those material things or those distractions, whichever distractions may be in the mind, in the physical form, in the emotional body, then you start to ascend mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally. Because you kind of like become this, I almost like just envision like floating upward as you let those things shed, and you become more and more harmony, working more and more out of love. I don't know where that was a small ramble, but that was what was just coming up to me on that fear and love and insecurity over you. Yeah, talking stick in the middle.
Thank you, Shami. And invite Chris to speak and invite new voices into the room. And I think Rebecca is going to help us connect with Costa Rica because she's shy. She's very camera, and if you know her, she's not comfortable in front of the camera like I am. So that's why she's being quiet over there. Go ahead, Chris.
Cool. I'll keep it short then. Part of what she just showed me as well, that when we receive a tree for building, which we ask for first, it's not taking the biggest and tallest tree. She's showing me we receive the middle range trees, because the big trees are the elders of the forest. They guide the younger trees through, and they allow for a certain amount of receiving for us so we can build our homes. And it's learning to listen to this. Which trees do we harvest? But once again, it's asking her. She guides us to what we receive, how much we receive, and the place we receive it from. So talking stick in the middle. And yes, Becky, Kat, Jean, love to hear from you all.
Rebecca, are you able to request permission? Are you able to share and request? Because I
Oh,
cannot make
I
you
can
up.
do it. I can do it. So, so Robert and I, when we were there in February in Costa Rica, where Robert is right now, which is not at the volcano, although it sounds like your heart still is there. We were on the side of the mountain in Arosi Valley, which is a couple of hours away from San Jose, which if you fly in there from the States, I think that's pretty much the main airport to go into. And Robert and I had come up with this idea to start recording a monthly video that we would share with some of my Patreon supporters called Walking with Spirit. And I don't know if Robert's shared the first one we did, but the second one we did in Costa Rica. And right behind Nuestra Casita de Paz y Amor, which is the name of our house, which is our house, not Robert's and my house, but our house, our shared beautiful casita. We have a little banana patch just above us, a little bit higher up on the hill. It's not really a hill, it's a mountain. When you go up there, it's like up. And so we went up there, and Robert recorded this, and this is a piece of a longer vignette. Well, this is a vignette of a longer piece that we thought we'd share right now to invite you all more into Costa Rica and into the experience of being in nature. So if you have the ability to turn up your volume, you'll hear bird song, you'll hear dogs barking, you'll hear the things that Robert is probably still hearing right now. So we invite you in. I'm going to share my screen, and I'll remember to share sound. So just take a deep breath and enjoy a few minutes on the side of a mountain in Arosi in Costa Rica. Now,
going to place our attention on what we feel in our body, to stand where we are upon this earth. I feel the earth underneath my feet. I feel the damp air on my arms and on my legs. I feel the reverberation of the sounds echoing off the trees. I feel touched by the energy of life all around me. And now I'm closing my eyes more tightly to open to my spirit sense, to feel the presence of spirit, divine, God, goddess, creator, whatever brings you comfort, that word that brings you comfort, to know that you're safe in the mystery of this earth. In silence, with myself, I open to spirit. And if gratitude is a sense, we can open to a sense of gratitude for this connection that we can feel to the land, to the nature that we live within, depend upon this regeneration that we are part of, the way nature gives and gives and gives. And in gratitude, to activate gratitude in our being, our awareness of gratitude and connection. We breathe. We feel. We listen. We see. We touch. We receive. When you have your walk with nature, may you be blessed. Aho, Amen, Amin, Ashe, Namaste, Salam Alaikum.
Thank you. Anything we'd want to add to the tail end of that?
Just wanted to share that Robin Wall-Kimmerer, which some of you may know, she is a Potawatomi, I hope I'm saying that right. Is that right, Potawatomi? Indigenous elder, teacher, botanist, writer. And I heard her give a lecture on YouTube recently, and she was talking about our connection with animals and how colonized our relationship in our culture is, that we refer to animals as they or them, and we don't pronoun them, in a way that might honor them in a different way. And she recommended that instead of saying, when you're referring to worms, or a worm as, oh, it, right? Instead of you know, an honoring name, that it's that nature has become an it, like the tree is an it, or the flower, it's over there. Or the cat is deciding to give my hair a massage. Thank you. I'm talking about you, four-leggeds. Look at him. He's climbing on my back because I'm not paying enough attention to him. And so what Robin suggested was that we recognize the kinship with all living things. And when the Canada geese fly overhead, we don't say, oh, they are flying over. We say, kin is flying over. And when we see a worm, we say, oh, ki is there, Ki. And so we have a special word. You really wanted to make a point. You like this, don't you? They really want us to make it's an opportunity for us to decolonize our relationship with nature. I did this on purpose. I cued him for, you know, to really get everybody's attention. That we recognize when we're with trees that we're in kinship with them, and they are kin. When we see a grove of trees, there's kin, and when we lean against one tree, it's ki. And so I've really been, as another, I'm writing a sermon this week about the power of language. The power of language to transform our relationship and our experience in the now, and about stories and the words that we use, and just changing, just and totally changing our words around nature, I think will help to decolonize us in our mind even more, and really connect us even more deeply with the spirit that's between us, the connection, the unity and the oneness. So thank you, Midnight. This is Midnight. This is Robert's cat who has adopted me, and he is 17 years old, so he can have anything he wants, including his claws in my back.
All right. I believe that's talking stick in the middle. Go ahead, Jim, and then I'll go after Jim.
Yeah, I think all of the indigenous cultures I've worked with do not separate humans from the rest of the creatures, other than the colonizers, the Europeans, the westernized cultures. And a lot of that started with, as did so many things, including physical issues. I think the list goes on. When we started the Industrial Revolution, and people started forming huge cities, then we lost that connection totally, which is precisely why some folks wanted cities to form. Most that I've dealt with talk about my brothers, my sisters. It can be the trees, it can be the animals, it could be anything. Mitakuye from my Lakota family, all my relations doesn't just mean humans, it means all my relations. If westernized people use it, they think it means just who we relate to who has two legs. Not at all. Because then you're missing, 99% of the natural world, the world we live in. So I think that's a really critical one. The other lesson that just came to me, Robert, is as Becky, as you were talking, and I'm so glad you're doing the videos. And I know as an organization, we've talked about this, but in all my time I spent in Central America and working with students and universities and nature and blah, 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 we did tons of video, really good stuff, which technically belonged to the university, most of it, because I was usually there on the university dime and running some university programs. So we gathered all this stuff, and it was all saved at university, and it was in the downstairs of the Natural Resource Building, which was our building, and it was stored in a couple ways. It was stored on computers, and it was stored as separate disks, and so forth and so on. And I couldn't wait. I figured when I get older, man, I'm going to revisit all this stuff, and I'll use it as a teaching tool. And then the huge flood hit Fort Collins. and came right through the university, and it took out the whole basement and the whole first floor. So guess what? All that stuff gone. It is really important, as most indigenous people do, to share the stories orally. The spoken word is critical. But now in this time of change, it's also critical, I think, to make sure we're storing it in other ways. So that it's there when those who follow us need it. When we get through this time of stress and strain, it'll be there for the future. And I just thought I'd put it out there because I know I've heard from other people who are having the same discussion. All right, how do we preserve all this stuff? I don't have the answer. I just know what can happen if you put everything in one boat. That's all. Talking stick in the middle.
I'm gonna re-answer Shami's question from earlier. Of course, now she's not here, but it was I experienced something different today when I came back. One, my meditations in Costa Rica are unique. If I go back to my highest point in those in my life, it's exceeded when I'm here. A lot of things are even at home sometimes. I mean, because home is a place of activity, and it's sometimes it's hard to meditate at home unless you have a sacred space, which I'm creating. I'm going to create when I get back. But when I come here, I just drop in instantly. I think about meditation, and I'm in it before I even start to meditate. I just fall right into it. You know, things come through so easily, seeing things, hearing things, that I'm happy if it happens 1 in 10, 20, 100 times when I'm not here, right? But I noticed when I came back, before the meeting, I wanted to meditate, and I moved the chair. I was on the unit call, but I moved the chair in front of the window, and I stopped meditating. It was different. And I felt the difference when I realized it right before Rebecca's meditation, but when we went through her little meditative exercise, I felt a different energy. It's about 20 or 30 meters away from the wall here. And it brought me to a very calm space, which is why you've got to ask me to speak up now. And that's where I'm usually at with spirit. I slip into this calmness and I get very quiet. But when I meditated earlier, it was ecstatic. It was energetic. It was a high. And I've never had that when I meditated. And I feel almost like that's something that I brought back from Irazu with me, that volcano. You know, creation in energy comes in many forms. Sometimes creation is slow and it's calm and it's peaceful. Sometimes it's energetic and it's violent. We wouldn't have a lot of land to stand on if it wasn't for some very energetic things, and we wouldn't have mountains and, you know, with the tectonic plates, and we don't like those earthquakes, but they've given us the variety. They've given us what we have. They've given us the drift and oceans and seas and all these things. So that's kind of re-answering that question. I realized where that energy came from, I think, was from there, from that peaceful, dormant volcano I was at. I had touched something and I brought it back, it felt like. And I really just sort of seen the difference, the dichotomy there with the other meditation right here, which is more calm. And I also have a problem when I go into a place, I have a tendency to look for something, and I get stuck in the doing and not the being still. You know, I'm looking instead of, you know, waiting and receiving. But which was a little bit about what tonight was originally going to be about, but we let it flow. But maybe that's my segue into that. There was a story I shared on Sunday morning, because we're talking about being open to spirit, and it reminded me of the story I heard in my church days a long time ago. This bishop, and he was what's called the presiding bishop in the top 20 people in this church, very spiritual person, a lot of responsibility, and his son passed away. And he's busy working, he's doing his job, and his son appears to his wife and tells her, "Let dad know I'm okay, because he's worried about me." Let him know everything is good and I'm good. And she asked him, "Well, why didn't you go to him? You know, like he's this high profile person in the church." And he said, he was too busy. I couldn't get through. And he's doing good work, right? And this is a good person. This isn't a corrupt person, but really good. He's doing good work. But he's so busy doing the good work, he can't receive these messages. He can't receive his own son coming to let him know that he's okay. And I'll continue that maybe after Jim speaks.
It's going to affirm that from a personal level. Back when my daughter was in high school and thinking about colleges, her mother did not want her to travel far. She hoped she would pick one nearest. I was back in Pennsylvania then. And so I tried to, tell her, well, there's lots of good colleges. Can't you pick one that's closer? She was looking at some of the colleges out on the West Coast. She ended up picking one in New Jersey, but that was just coincidence. But I said, yeah, why do you have to go to Stanford when you could pick a really good college here? And so her comeback to me was, I'm paraphrasing, but I'm very close because I still remember it. Well, why should you really care? You pretty much missed high school for me anyway. And boy, I realized she was absolutely right. I was too busy doing good things, as you said, Robert. Absolutely. Things that were needed. But I had missed off on my own family, on my own work. And so that really shifted my road. So now as I do my best to do good things, but I also take the breather and are those who I'm closest to, what do they need? And myself, what do I need? And that is really, really critical because I never want to have a minute like that again. So that's all. Stick in the middle.
Yeah, and I'm going to read a poem I just thought of that I kind of read earlier. Did somebody go to speak there? I'm sorry.
I just said, ouch, Jim. Ouch. I feel your pain.
It still hurts. Thank you, sis.
Maybe I'm going to read the poem first and then I'm going to comment. I reflect on this, and this is a random thing I read earlier that I'm like, okay, that has nothing to do with what I'm going to talk about tonight. But it did. I even have it highlighted in red here, so I said it was important at the time. And this is T. Brown. I don't know who he is. Rebecca probably does. If thou couldst empty all thyself of self, like to a shell dishabited, then might he find thee on an ocean shelf, and say, this is not dead, and fill thee with himself instead. But thou art so replete with very thou, and hast such shrewd activity, that when he comes, he says, it is enough unto itself, 'twere better let it be. It is so small and full, and has no need of me. Sir George added a third line, third verse. So will I empty all myself of self, like to a shell dishabited. Then will he find me on an ocean shelf, and say, this is not dead, and fill me with himself instead. If you were talking earlier, I was thinking about what we do. I've got thousands of books at home that I read, and I'm constantly trying to fill myself with these books, and there are good things in those books. And as I'm talking, as we're talking here, but I ask, what filled those books? That's what I need to read. That is now where I need to connect. I've connected with enough books. Now connect with the source of books. Stop trying to fill yourself and just open and be filled. Chris.
Just a reflection. When I had an accident in 1985, it hurt to hold books and read them, and I used to read prolifically. And I found that when I stopped reading was when I started learning. Talking stick in the middle.
I'm not saying books aren't great, but go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, mine was a little different than that, but it's the same general idea. I also, for most of my life until the last 20 years, I read constantly. I could be reading 4 or 5 books at a time. And then watching educational DVDs as well. I got to the point when I went back as an older student to get some advanced degrees. And I thought I would get my PhD. But when it got to my PhD, I did all the work. The only thing I had left was my oral defense, which means you meet with your committee and they ask you questions right there, face to face. And once you get through that, you have your PhD. And the night before, Robert, I was sitting there with some of my books and the things I'd had to read to get to that point for the PhD, and looking at, okay, I'll be creating more books because I'll be doing research, blah, 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 blah. And I called my committee of 4 up and I told each one of them that I really apologize, but I'm not going to my orals tomorrow. I don't want a PhD. I'm happy with the 2 masters I have, because now it's about doing. It's rolling up my sleeves, getting my hands dirty with the people. And that's probably one of the best decisions I ever made in my life. 2 of those people never spoke to me again, but that's their problem, not mine. And I'm not knocking all of education. That's not the point at all. For those who are motivated to move that way and think they can contribute most that way, that's great. But this is a time of doing, not thinking and reading. And, we've done so much of that. We just got to get out there and do it.
Amen.
Stick in the middle.
I feel like just being right now. Yeah, I just checked that. So we're getting close to closing, but I'm still going to read books, and I'm still an interfaith minister, and I have to be able to relate to a lot of different people and understand where they come from and be able to speak their language. But when it comes to seeking the deep truths, they're not in books. Chris, I'm going to let you speak and we'll close up here.
Okay. What I hear and reflecting on as you guys are talking, books are one of the ways of conveying what we perceive as knowledge. But it's knowledge of the past. It's what's led us to where we are. We've got to balance that with the moment, which is where we are. And this is where the new knowledge is found that builds on that old knowledge. Talking stick in the middle.
I don't know where I read it. It was actually in a spiritual book. It says something to the effect of, as soon as truth is written down and put in a book, it's dead. Truth in books are dead. You can kind of give it new life by letting it pass through you and come out maybe differently. I'm paraphrasing a quote. I could find it and read it real quick, but it has to pass through us. It has to be in us and with us to be alive. And I want to also point out there's a difference between truth and doctrine. A lot of times doctrine is presented as truth. Truth is doctrine is an interpretation of truth. And we hold on to it as truth, and that's where we get in trouble, and that's when it really dies. We have to go back to truth, and we have to relive truth and see what new doctrine comes out and understand that it's temporary. Had a couple of hands pop up. Chris, was yours back up or was it still up? And then Rebecca, and then we have.
I was just sort of reflecting on what you've already said. Truth to me is an ever-changing state. It's like anything. It changes and grows and expands on itself. Anytime we hold on to it, it dies because the life, which is the change of it, has been taken away. You can't make it permanent. Talking stick in the middle.
Rebecca?
I love books, and I hear what you're saying, Robert, and feel that. And just to hold the irony that books, most of the books, are upon paper that came from trees. They make them out of bamboo now too, and of course Kindle version, but yeah, it's just we have a tree in our study, Robert.
We'll make it worth it. Chris, quick comment.
If we listen to the trees, we would gain, if we listen to trees while we're living or they're living,
Yeah.
we would gain more knowledge in the books made from the tree.
Yep.
Talking stick in the middle.
One day we're all going to be advanced enough and we're going to be able to do that all directly. Jim.
I know we're putting you past the time, but since it just came up, since it just came up again, we have got to stop making things from the trees. We can no longer build houses out of trees. We can no longer print pages out of trees. It has to end and end now. We have to find other ways to house ourselves, and there are other ways. And I don't mean plastic, because that's just shifting the problem from one thing to another. But there's no more capacity to cut down. As much as I love wood and having it around me, we don't have the capacity to do that any longer. Ooh, trees just
Awesome.
kissed me on the neck. Thank you. I'm done.
Shami, go ahead.
Uh-oh.
He was going over the border between Arizona and New Mexico.
Oops, you couldn't hear me. Can you hear me now? Or no? Never mind.
I see. Más o menos.
Okay, how about now?
Give it a go. Let's see what happens.
All right, so I had little like, it made me think about the roots of the tree, and then it feels like it reflects into our foundation energetically. And the trees, if they grow roots, they're growing in the ground, they're growing strongly, they're spreading out. They're the foundation for this trunk that carries all the nutrients up and through the body, through the tree, through us, through the body. So when I was feeling into that and how when a volcano erupts and the lava, the magma slows down, everything is grounded and that didn't have the foundation.
Shami, we're getting like one word out
It's
of
almost
five.
like just read them what I said.
Shami, we can't
Sorry.
hear you.
Yeah, you're breaking up really bad now. We had you for a minute and then lost you again. All right, Kat, closing comments from you.
During COVID, when I was in house isolation for 9 months, I sat under aspen and juniper. And what I noticed was that the pattern of seasonal change was human. Like I could see that change happening. I could see that pattern in these large ecosystems. We kind of lump them together and we don't see the individual. And human beings do the same with each other. And that lumping together, that generalizing, is part of the breakdown that I feel when I pray for peace. And I just try to recover that, the senses, that relationship with the pussy willows and the buds and the flowers and the leaves, and notice that all of that change is predictable, reliable, and I just wonder what we could do as a species that would become predictable and reliable, so that we wouldn't have these conflicts, these wars that kill so many. Just the reverence for life seems to vanish, and we forget the value of life. I guess that's all I need to say. Jim, I love you.
Hmm. All right, we are a little over time. Thank you for that. There was a theme tonight. I'll rewatch it and figure out what it was, but those are the messages from Costa Rica so far, and they keep coming. So, oh yes, can we do that? Yeah. Oh, there it goes. Costa Rican people are a very hardworking people. They're also very relaxed people. It's very pura vida. Work hard, but don't take it too serious. Make room. Stop feeling yourself, be filled. So thank you, everybody, for being here, and for all those who've come and watched afterwards. And we'll see you next week. Jim can stop recording now.
Thank you. Good night.